16.3 Coaching Session Review and Development Plan. So the aims of my lesson was to develop their forward drive batting technique with the aim to be able to hit the ball into space instead of it just being random, and to also learn new fielding techniques such as the long barrier to better enhance their fielding performance in the game. My session objectives were to provide a demonstration of the long barrier to the group, with them repeating the action back to me, and to give technical criticism to 5 different participants on their forward drive and how they can improve it. So here we've got our risk assessment, the warm-up, main activities, the condition game, and the cool-down. So, as I mentioned, my aims and objectives earlier. In terms of the aims, the development of their forward drive batting technique with the aim to be able to hit the ball into space instead of just it being random. Some of them did this to an extent, but only the minority within the group. And we didn't actually get to do the drill we had planned that really focused on hitting the ball into space specifically, as we didn't have the time for it, so we decided to cut it out. So maybe if we'd done that, then this aim could have been completed a bit better. To learn new fielding techniques such as the long barrier to better enhance their fielding performance in the game. They did learn the long barrier well. They were able to show it to us when asked and understood why they needed to use it. However, they didn't actually use it during the game. I think it could have been a good idea to reinforce the importance of it during the game, so maybe to put in a forfeit or something, such as any time the ball went through the legs in the game and they didn't use the long barrier, they had to use something like 5-star jumps. Session objectives, to provide a demonstration of the long barrier to the group with them repeating it back to me. The demo of the long barrier went well. I added some teaching points such as keeping their knee to their heel to stop the gap, and cupping their hands in front to make sure they catch the ball and doesn't hurt them. They did all repeat the action back to me, and I did make some adjustments to some of the children to correct their technique and try and help them out a bit with it. And then to give technical criticism to 5 different participants on their forward drive and how they can improve it. So I gave some criticism and construction to the participants, such as the angle they're holding the bat at, and which would affect the direction the ball would go. I probably could have given more feedback on the way they were actually holding the bat, the angle of their bodies and their stance, but I think I chose to only correct the angle of their bat as it was the easiest for them to change. It was easiest to explain, and they were more likely to notice a difference from making that change as opposed to the other ones, which could have been a bit more time consuming, and they might not actually notice the effect straight away, so they'd be less likely to carry on doing it. So in terms of my session, some of the strengths I thought were my movement within the group, as well as moving the group within the space that we had, the demonstrations I provided to the group, such as the long barrier, my communication skills towards the group in terms of my tone of voice, my volume, and the actual language I use to try and get a better response from them, and my motivation, so keeping them going throughout the session. My weaknesses, I think, were the lack of progression options I gave them during the activities, dealing with challenging behaviour within the group, time keeping, so we ran out of time for one of the drills, which was a shame, and health and safety aspect, so it started raining during our session, and I don't think I'd thought about how I would have dealt with that had it happened. So there's lots of different opportunities to improve these weaknesses, such as different courses for things like health and safety and challenging behaviour, doing observations of other sessions and taking notes from that and what I can do to improve my own work experience, such as shadowing other coaches and teachers, to give me an insight on how they do things themselves, as well as doing first aid, as I mentioned earlier, for health and safety. Some of the issues that could arise from this is having the time to complete courses and fit in observations of doing 2 or 3 sessions with other people's. The finance side of things, so obviously courses, they cost money, and potentially the location of the courses and where work experience and observation might be available could be an issue getting to them, and the availability in terms of some coaches and schools might not actually want people to come in and watch them because it's a bit of an inconvenience to them, so the availability of places to go to. So my 3 key strengths I thought were my movement, demos and communication. I think that I moved within the group quite a lot rather than just standing at the front of them and just talking at them. Like during the activities I kind of like tried to get more involved in the group to makes it easier to spot any issues and try and like help them with their technique and stuff, and I think it makes you feel slightly less like intimidated if you're just standing at the front just like watching over them all. I thought my demos were quite good because I tried to break them down into a few different kind of stages to try and not overwhelm them too much by pointing out every little detail. I also made sure I was in like a good position to do these demos so everyone can see. And then one of the things I'd done was I would have them repeat back to me what I just showed them and then try and correct anything that I saw wasn't quite right. My communication in terms of how I actually spoke to the children, because obviously different people respond better in different ways, so you can't really talk to them as if they're a teacher or like a very like experienced, skilled player, because they're not going to respond to that. You have to kind of speak to them on their level and in terms that they would understand. As well as like you need a sense of authority about your tone of voice, but you don't want to come across as being too strict or they might not respond very well to that either. And also like the volume, like when people are spread out more, obviously you got to talk louder. And so one of my weaknesses I thought was challenging behaviour. So one of the issues I found from this was that it caused disruptions within the group, and it meant that I was paying more attention to people who were causing disruptions than the kids who were like doing well in the lesson and actually just getting on with it. And it caused like some safety issues at some point where like kids would be like mucking around, like throwing like tennis balls around and stuff that could like hurt someone, and like it can upset other students because they might not get a turn and like they might feel a bit kind of left out because of the attention being put on to the disruptive students. So my SMART target for this was to, within 1 month, coach a small group of children with challenging behaviour from a group or class I've previously observed, and also to complete a challenging behaviour course within 2 months. So to get to this point, I wanted to spend 3 sessions observing a teacher or coach teaching their class or group of participants with challenging behaviour, and then take from that any strategies I see them using to combat the difficult behaviour, and like talk to the teacher and coach about what techniques they feel work best and what they find is more effective when dealing with challenging behaviour. And that's why I chose to coach a group from within the group I would have observed, because then you can get like an insight on like specific kids and like how they respond to different like consequences and stuff, and which ones they respond to better, to give a better chance of the session actually working properly. And then there's also to complete a challenging behaviour course, which can be done online, and to do that within 2 months. I'll talk more about that at the end. And then this would enable me to be able to run a session efficiently and dealing with any behaviour issues effectively to avoid any major disruptions to the session. In terms of progression, I don't think there are enough adaptations, and they weren't able to develop maybe as much as they could have, and because they were like doing things that might have been too easy for them, it can like get quite boring for them, and then if they get bored then they're more likely to cause disruptions, and they weren't able to challenge themselves as much as they might have wanted to. So my SMART target for this was to be able to offer at least 2 variations of each activity within my session the next time I carry it out within the next month. So to do this, I'd observe 3 different groups of different abilities, so like a class of beginners, intermediate and advanced if possible. Although that might not be the case, it might be a point to look at different age groups, because typically different age groups would have different kind of abilities in general. And then from that I'd note the differences within the activities and which ones are similar, and how I can link certain variations of each activity and implement them. And I think that would help me to be able to think of progressions on the spot, which will keep things moving more within the session and stop people getting bored, because again, when they get bored they'll lose interest and are more likely to cause disruptions and cause issues within the group. And it might make me more observant in terms of being able to look at people and assess their ability levels, and therefore be able to help them get the most out of the session, because you can have kids saying they're really good at something when really you look at them and they're actually not as good as they said. But yeah, that could help me actually pick up on that a bit quicker. So my other one was health and safety. So in my session it started raining, which is something I hadn't really thought about, and because they're quite young, quite hyperactive, some of them were running into each other, and I didn't really feel confident and that I had the knowledge as to how I could deal with certain injuries if they were to occur. And I wasn't quite as observant as I could have been in terms of spotting hazards and noting how to get around that hazard. So what I was going to aim to do is complete a first aid course within 1 month. And then another idea was to shadow an outdoor adventurous activities instructor during a session. So to do the first aid course, it's simply to locate and apply to a first aid course and then complete that within the month. And then in terms of the OAA instructor, I thought it would be a good idea to try and find a willing instructor who would be happy to let me observe or shadow their instructing their session. Because obviously in OAA they have a lot more risks and potential for injuries to occur. So seeing how they deal with it on a much larger and intense scale could help to increase my confidence when doing a more simpler task that has a much lower threat to their health. So yeah, I thought that would leave me feeling more confident and competent that I could deal with any injuries that occur. And then from the OAA observation, it would probably help in terms of knowing which are the real risks and hazards that I need to pay more attention to. Because obviously you still need to be aware of all of them, but kind of knowing which ones to prioritise and which ones you can kind of not look over but pay slightly less attention to. And then health and safety would become more of a natural thought rather than making a big deal out of it, so I could naturally think of the hazards and stuff when planning and delivering the sessions instead of making it an add-on kind of thought. So in terms of courses that I was going to complete, would be the first aid course for dance and sport. So it lasts 6 hours, it's located in Brighton, and it costs £70 for an individual. So the idea of the course is to give dance teachers and sport coaches basic understanding of first aid techniques for conditions that they may encounter during their session, and include primary and secondary care skills. So the course covers a number of things: the role and responsibility of the first aider, managing an emergency situation, the importance of communication, casualty care, initial assessment, allergic reaction and the use of auto-injectors, asthma, bleeding management, bone, muscle and joint injuries, burns, choking for adults, child and infants, head injuries, poisoning, CPR for adults, child and infant, treatment of an unconscious casualty, minor injuries including nosebleeds. So yeah, obviously I feel like doing that would make me feel a lot more confident and competent to be able to deal with certain situations, and it kind of takes away one extra kind of panic in your head, because you know you can deal with it if you have to. The challenging behaviour for children and young people level 2 course. The course aims to help staff improve the lives of people who display challenging behaviour, as well as how staff can support children and young people to replace the behaviours with positive actions. So this course, it can be online or on paper, so you can do it at home. The cost of it is $39.99, and you can do it at your own pace, because as long as you get through the entire course, you can just kind of do it as and when you want to, so there's a bit less commitment there with the time. There's 10 different modules covered. Each module includes different information. So module 1 begins by exploring what behaviours and communications are and what functions they serve. Module 2 explores the concept of challenging behaviour and different definitions of this. Module 3 and 4 look at how challenging behaviour can be assessed and some of the strategies that can be used to help promote positive behaviour. Module 5 looks in detail at the important issues of physical intervention. Module 6 gives advice on how to record incidents. Modules 7, 8 and 9 give specific information regarding challenging behaviour and mental health, learning difficulties and sensory issues in autism. And Module 10 looks at current UK legislations relevant to the field of challenging behaviours. So it's got some proven benefits are to understand how to improve the lives of children and young people who display challenging behaviour, identify how to support service users to replace the negative behaviours with positive actions, and understand how to remain safe, keep service users safe, and act within organisational, local and national procedures. So I feel like that would just give me the confidence knowing that what I'm doing is right and within the boundaries of dealing with children with challenging behaviour. So I'd feel a lot more confident to end any negative behaviour they're having and put some positive ones in place instead.